Hi, this is Malcolm and you watch Mojo Recaps now. Before we begin this video, if you are one of those who like this kind of content, you're gonna miss a lot of fun if you don't follow and subscribe to our channel. So do it now, then come to see what we have for you today. The next day he's awoken by a ringing, and it's Billy again, but he seems upset. He told Finney, "Don't call me Billy, that is not me anymore." And Finney sees his angry emotion translates into a nearby soda bottle that starts to wobbling as an objection. He prefers to be called newspaper boy. Now he tells Finney about something so important to him, that he had his own separate plan of escape. When he was at this same place, he had carefully removed a long cable from the wall. "Go and get it, Finney, and use it for escape." Then the bottle wrote a testo point up to the window. "This is a perfect idea. Maybe he can use the cable to get out of here." In the break room of the school, Gwen this time dreams of Billy, seeing him getting the newspaper copies together for his distribution tour with his cute dog. He throws out the papers with the pup by his side, and then she sees his wheels overturned, and the van is going away. The grabber stands out in a yard holding black balloons and she hears a sound of a giggle. She sees the top of a house. She's starting to see more and more of the previous victims' stories. She wakes up now and tries to focus. She knows now something weird about herself, but it's real. She is somehow able to access their memories, which appear to be tied to their spirits reaching out. In the basement, Finney discovers the cable and tugs it, and he finds out it's difficult to hook around the bars. So he drags another old rug over to feed the cable up. He ties a knot to act as a foothold and manages to pull himself up. He reached the window and clung to the frame. But the frame could not bear its weight, and was dislodged from its place so that the two fell to the ground. At home, Gwen decided to attempt gently broach the subject of her dreams with her dad. She begins to explain her point of view, but she can't muster the words. So Dad interrupts her by talking about her mother. He told her she was a special smart soul, just like her. But she got touched too. She saw and heard things and became so convinced that her dreams must mean something. They eventually told her to do things. Terrible things actually. And as a result, she took her own life. But again, he says what she was seeing was not real. It's possible your mom was seeing things in her dreams just like is it with you now. But most people would consider such things to be the product of the troubled mind we know. He tells his daughter that she must understand that trauma never really heals. And he does not want that future for her. That's his biggest worry. But she did not give in to his reasoning easily, and asks what if that could help them find Finney. This is enough for him to relent and change his mind, then drive around and search in the streets for that yard and that house that she has seen in her dream. But in the end, they found nothing. Meanwhile, the cops do their ordinary job. They ask neighborhood residents about missed kids, and they met the funky guy Max, who waves his hand to get them inside. Then breathlessly he starts explaining that he's been working on the case on his own. He looked into every detail regarding the kidnappings. He's pinpointed based on where they were taken, which means the grabber house must be somewhere in this specific neighborhood. They ask what his story is. Max is not resident here in this neighborhood. He's here getting rest at his brother's house while he switches from one job to another. He starts thinking for some reason that they're all working the case together now, and they do at least allow him to keep fiddling away. They didn't take him seriously, and they told him to let them know if he finds anything. On the way out they suggest that he cleans up the room after they are seeing some remnants of cocaine left out on the table. And that's explaining why they didn't take his words as serious talk, and also that explains his frantic behavior. Now he cleans up the mess by sniffing the rest of the cocaine quickly. As viewers, we see now a descent through the floor into the basement where Finney is being held. Now we surprisingly get that it's Max is the grabber's brother. Now we know what kind of unforeseen complications the grabber faced, and he mentioned it before to Finney. Max is here, and he is a curious person that is mucking up his plans. If only Max wasn't here, the grabber would probably have more fun with Finney. Later, the grabber returns to the basement with food. Finney pretends to be asleep. "I know you're not sleeping." Lyrically he said it. Then he asks Finney about his name. He just wants to know his captive's name, which he normally doesn't bother himself with that. He usually just finds out in the newspaper. This question sounds strange to Finney. He gets curious about why the grabber wants to know this. What's the different thing this time from previous times? The grabber told him that things are different this time and complicated. Nothing is going right this time, and he is already thinking about setting him free. The hope caresses Finney again, so he enthusiastically suggests in that case that he could just let him go, blindfold him and drop him off anywhere on the street. With a seduction tone, the grabber asks him again about his name. For some reason that we don't know, Finney decides to lie to him, so he told him, "My name is Taylor Mullen." Now the grabber seems so upset and disappointed, he drops the food, throwing the newspaper at him. Finney opens it, his face plastered right on the front page with all details. "I was really starting to like you, Finney. I almost let you go." He said that, and then shuts the door nervously. Later that night, the grabber is back in his chair waiting for the wished next move from Finney. Actually, he is trying hard to not fall asleep at the same time. Downstairs, Finney hears a strange sound, like dripping water or something, so he uses his rocket flashlight to scan around the dark room. Now he is terrified to see a slaughtered kid hanging in the air and his blood dripping to the ground, which is making that sound. In that scary position, the slaughtered kid points to the black phone. Finney got it fast. There is another someone who wants to communicate with him. He picks up the phone to listen. "You don't have much time." A boy told him that on the other side, and he continued. "The grabber hasn't been sleeping. He thinks this might be it. He's going to figure it out." Finney doesn't understand what is the boy talking about. The boy explains by telling him that the grabber's brother is upstairs, and that brother starts to figure out what happens here in the basement. Finney doesn't understand again what the boy wants him to do in this situation, and why he hasn't been killed yet. The boy tells him that because you didn't play with him his game till now, he can't move on to the next part of the game until he beat you in the first part, and that next part is his favorite. But you don't have much time, his brother going to figure it out, and he can't wait for more than that. It is obvious now to Finney that pain is the next stage. The chance is available, just have the courage to make the necessary step to get it. The grabber is asleep, but it's not going to be a piece of cake. There's a combination lock on the front door of the house that was repurposed from Griffin's bike, the boy who talked to him a little while ago. This combination lock has a code to open, and Griffin wrote it before on the wall. Finney finds it. But the big problem here is he doesn't know the sequence of this grouping numbers. Griffin doesn't know either. Unfortunately, he can't remember that sequence, so Finney is gonna have to try them all. Only he needs to be so careful and quiet about it. Finney now is upstairs. Slowly he gets close to the grabber. That sadist kill is really a cautious sleeper like a fox. He passed on his tiptoes right next to the grabber, takes a direct go to the front door, starts his tries with that suggested sequence of this grouping numbers before he finally gets the correct one. But oops, the lock opens. Click wakes up the grabber's dog to strongly bark and quickly waked up the killer himself. The disaster has already happened. Finney now has to act so fast. It's his life on the line. There is nowhere to hide, no time to think, no way to stop, no means to retreat. Just running is the only act he can do, so he sprints outside down to the street, screaming for help. The grabber chases him by his van and clips him, rustling him to the ground. A few nearby houses light the outside yard to check for the source of the noise. The grabber in some hiding place immobilizes Finney and puts a knife in his throat to force him to keep silent. "You say one word, and I will gut you like a pig, right here in the street." In a harsh whispering voice, the grabber said that. A few moments later all the lights were turned off, which means everything is back to quietly normal. "Nighty-night, naughty boy," the grabber said in a sarcastic tone before he is losing Finney his consciousness with a skillful blow to the head. He comes back to the basement and throws him back into the cell, which allows his brother Max to ask him in a sleepy voice from his room about the reason for that noise. But he told him it's nothing matter, just go back to bed.